Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. 48, we are in Gyaneshwari, Bhavartha Deepika, chapter 18, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, verse number 51. We are going to begin with today. And 48 and 49 verses, 49 and 50, these two verses were the introduction. And now, the introduction to what? Introduction to what is moksha? What is this Atma? And we saw where he said how after winning perfection one attains to Brahman, which is the highest state of wisdom. Many people don't even know what the goal of life is. And here Krishna is telling that the highest goal is the goal to attain Brahman, which is the highest wisdom. And here it was told, if I use the words were Siddhim prapto yata brahma tathapnoti nibodhame, and it has to be known. Nibodha. Bodh is not as separate to yourself, it has to be known as the self alone. And when you are the self and you have to know it as the self, meaning Atma and Atma Gyan is one and the same thing. It is not separate. Atma and Atma Gyan is one and the same. But what is your understanding? Atma Gyan means information collected by intellect. Isn't it? So this error has to be corrected. Samasena iva kaunteva nishtha jnanasa yapara, and this is the highest state of wisdom in which one can get established. Now, how to get established? That is the question. What are the steps involved? This is just in brief. All this has been told before, but this is like a recap because the discourse is coming to a conclusion. The song is coming to an end. How many more? It will take us few months though. It's not going to finish that quickly. So here in the 51st verse today we begin the steps that are involved in the realization of that attainment of that highest wisdom. Buddhya vishuddhaya yukto dhrutyatmanam niyamya cha shabdadin vishayanstaktva ragadveshau yudhasya cha. And continuing in the next verse, Vivikta sevi laghvashi yata vakaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samupashritaha. It goes on, but we'll just take these two. Just let's read the 51st verse together. Buddhya vishuddhaya yukto dhrutyatmanam niyamya cha shabdadin vishayans tyaktva ragadveshau vyudasya cha. In the 51st verse, Lord Sri Krishna, he says, endowed with pure intellect, controlling the self with steadiness, and having abandoned the sense objects such as sound, sight, etc., and casting away passion and hatred. Then continue in the next verse. Dwelling in solitude, eating sparingly, subdued in speech, body and mind, ever intent on the practice of meditation and resorting to dispassion. This is one thought. Then it continues afterwards again, but we'll look at it, forsaking egoism and all that. But here, so what is he saying? Endowed with pure intellect. What is pure intellect? Pure intellect is the pure antahkaran. Antahkaran is mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. These are the four aspects. And when he is using the word pure intellect, it can mean the inner equipment with which we interact with everything or take in the knowledge, etc. That is mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, mind, intellect, memory and ego, the antahkaran. Controlling the self with steadiness, having purified, meaning what? Now, chitta is memory. Memory comes from how? So we have to get, we should not dwell in memories. We should not consciously bring into the present moment the past memories. It's a no-no. Because that will act as a deterrent to your steadiness. Because if the memory is exciting, it will make you excited. If it is passionate memory, it will make you passionate. If it is a hateful memory, it will make you hateful. And that those emotions then shake the body, shake the mind. First shake the mind, then the breath changes according to the emotion, and then the body also starts shaking. And then we are unsettled. And therefore, so memory must be kept one arm distance away. Then emotions have to be kept one arm distance away. Nobody is saying don't feel emotions, but don't become emotional mind. Intellect, don't logicalize too much, don't argue too much, don't conceptualize too much, because here we are talking about what? We are not talking about the world. We are talking about the self. Self is not a concept. It is your direct experience. And it is not going to get revealed through argument and discussion. So don't do that also. Then when we have removed mana, buddhi, chitta, when we have removed, we are undisturbed by emotions, when we are undisturbed by thoughts of the other in the mind, in the intellect, in the mind, and thoughts of memories also, then now what is left? Only I is left. Ahankar, I is left. So this ahankar can sometimes feel that I have reached because there is nothing else. Even that has to be, so yeah, we'll go into that later on. And having abandoned sense objects such as sound and casting away passion and hatred. Gyaneshwari Maharaj says, Tari Guru Daviliya Vata Yeuna Viveka Tirtha Tata Dhuniya Malakata Buddhicha Tene Magarahune Ugalili Prabha Chandre Alingili Taisi Shuddhatve Zadali Apanaya Buddhi Sanduni Kude Donhi Priyasi Anusare Kamini Dvandvatyage Swachintani Padali Taisi Ani Jnana Aise Juhara नेवो नेवो निरंतर इंद्री केले थोर शब्दाधिक जे ते रश्मी जाळ काढलेया मृगजळ जायक लया तैसे वृत्ती रोधे तया पाचाही केले. He says in the commentary, Gyaneshwari Maharaj says, such a seeker follows the path indicated by the teacher, and reaching the banks of the holy water in the form of discrimination, he washes off the impurity of his intellect. What is, if you just take intellect, what is the impurity of the intellect? Two ways you can put it. First, I gave you the antakaran, mana buddhi chitta ahankar. Another way of putting it is, intellect can function only where there is objectivity. Intellect needs to think. When intellect is thinking, it is always thinking about something which is other than itself, other than its source. And when it thinks of the source also, the intellect makes the subject into the object. You understand? And that is the mistake that we have to stop. Third way you can look at it is, intellect is the place where the Chaitanya, where the Chetana, the reflected consciousness, expresses as I thought. Remember, one life force divides itself into I thought and that thought, aham and idam. So aham is the reflection of that light in the intellect, and idam is the reflection of that light in the mind. So gross thoughts and finer thought. What is that finer thought? The finest thought is aham, I, which is the owner of everything, without which no communication is possible. So that I reflects in the intellect. So now when we take Annamay Kosh, Pranmay Kosh, Manomay Kosh, Vigyanmay Kosh, gross body, vital air body, mental body and intellectual body, which is this most finest compared to the gross? In the gross, the life force or the reflected consciousness functioning is expressing in and through and as the body. But are you able to see the consciousness? No. You cannot catch it. You can catch the body, but you cannot catch the consciousness. Can you catch it in the breath? No, breath is too fickle. You can't catch it there also. Can you catch it in the mind? No, the mind is even fickler. Thoughts are continuously changing. We are not able to catch it. But in the intellect, forget about the conceptualization of all those things. But what is the main part of the intellect? To reflect the I thought. So mind is one, but that mind gets divided. Mind is nothing but that reflected consciousness. In essence, it is nothing but reflected consciousness. Just as ocean, water is nothing but water. But water itself gets divided into many waves, isn't it? Or you can say the water itself gets divided into one ocean and many waves. So, ocean is also there and wave is also there. Within one water, we have created cause and effect. We have created two, but actually there is not two, there is only water only, isn't it? Exactly the same way, everything is reflected consciousness, and that reflected consciousness as if divides itself into two, as if that is a phenomena which is going on. When it started, we don't know, it's anadi. It divides itself into two. One is the aham and the other is the idam. One is the aham gets reflected in the intellect, and the idam, the variety, gets reflected in or gets projected in the mind by way of thoughts. So when we have given up all the thoughts, now here what he says, that he washes off all the impurity of the intellect. So two ways we can look at it. Either the I who is reflecting in the intellect, has got nothing to associate with. This is one way of looking at it, right? There's nothing to associate. Now what is left? What is left? I is still left. And majority, if we do not have a right teacher to guide us, then when we come to this Shuddha Antakaran, or to this pure intellect, where there is no objectivity there is no otherness, there is nothing, I is there. Majority of the yogi people, they consider this I, they think they have reached, that they have realized, that they have gained the greatest one. See? So what has happened here? The sense of I is still maintained. And as long as the sense of I is maintained, whether with thought or without thought, you're not recognized, or you're not abided in your completeness. See? So anyway, see, he washes off the impurity of his intellect, just as the moonlight released by the demon Rahu, that is after the eclipse is over, embraces the moon. So his intellect, after being purified, what was it? Just like Rahu is the eclipse. What does the eclipse do? It covers the sun. What happens as a result? Sun is always there, but you are not able to see the sun. The whole world is sprung into darkness. Exactly the same way. What is darkness? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Anger, greed, jealousy, envy, hypocrisy and arrogance. What else is darkness? Darkness is considering yourself to be born and afraid of dying. What is darkness? Darkness is you are considering yourself to be an individual. What is darkness? Darkness is where objectivity is the norm. Duality is the norm. That is darkness. Unity is not. Unity is sacrificed for the sake of duality. So, when we look at, oh, sun has gone, there is only darkness. When we speak like this in an eclipse time, has sun gone? No. Exactly the same way. We have not gone anywhere, but we get lost, we get covered up by the various associations, identifications, etc., etc. And therefore, here he says, just as the moonlight released by here it is called moonlight, released by the demon Rahu, that is after the eclipse is over, embraces the moon, so his intellect, after being purified, becomes attracted to the self. It is natural that when our mind, when the I has got nothing to associate itself with, a natural inclination, it's a natural curiosity, then who am I? This will automatically begin in majority of the students. But question is, have we purified ourselves or not? We want to keep one leg in the world and one foot in the spirituality. And we have to find a way. And what is the way? Give zero value to the world while living in the world, because you cannot live without this world. You are in this body. Only through this body you can do the sadhana. Only through this body you can realize. Through this body means while as a human being only you can discriminate and come to realize the essential nature. that possibility of contemplation, that possibility of meditation, that possibility of realization. I'm using the word possibility purposely. You are already, but possibility, we feel. It is only possible when we are born as a human being. Human being means with body. But how do we live with this body? That is an art. How do we negotiate with the demands of the body? How do we negotiate through the demands of the world? How do we negotiate through with the demands of our emotions? How do we negotiate with the demands of our hunger and thirst? All this we have to be alert. Not just if someone says, oh, you have come after such a long time, have one gulab jamun. Okay, for your sake I will have one. No, Swamiji, for a long time you have not come. Have one more. I know you love it. No, I got sugar. No, that is okay, but I have one more gulab jamun. It is okay. Take one more medicine or what? And we forget the problem that it is going to cause later on, and we succumb. It's not the fault of the person who is offering. That is their duty. But it is your discrimination whether to take it or not. Whether to be sticking to your guns. One is enough, half is enough, none is enough, whatever. So when our disposition towards the world is curtailed, is withdrawn from the world, withdrawn from the senses, withdrawn from the mind. So I was first associating with the world, then it withdrew from that, then it came to the senses, it withdrew from the senses, then the eye came to the mind, then breath, then it withdrew from the breath, then it came to the mind, it withdrew from the mind. Now what? In such a, even if it happens for some time, automatically, who am I inquiry gets instigated, introduced. Becomes attracted to it becomes attracted to the self. Example, where I have been using this example left, right and center, that is of sleep. After you live the whole day, where do you find the maximum bliss? Only in sleep. But when sleep comes, who is thinking of sleep? Who is thinking of sleep? I, isn't it? I is having a concept, intellect is having an idea that there is something called sleep which gives me bliss, where I am completely worry free. It's only an idea. But even with that idea, the I thinks of sleep, it thinks of it so continuously that the intellect, which is I, it gets absorbed into that idea. It gets absorbed. It gets sucked into it. The waker I loses his identity. Then only sleep can begin, isn't it? The waker I surrenders himself or herself. Well, there is no herself, himself or I. It's a principle. It surrenders itself to the idea of sleep. So here, when he is saying that the I gets attracted to the self, what is your intensity? Are we ready to surrender to the self like we surrender to sleep? Ready to be absorbed? See? Just as a woman from a good family leaves the home of her parents and parents-in-law and follows her husband, so his intellect, discarding the notions of dualism, becomes absorbed in the meditation of the self. This is the process. This is the process. This is the this is the sequence in which it will happen. Now you assess yourself, are we still concerned about the world? Are we still concerned about the body? Are we concerned about hunger and thirst, comfort, discomfort, heat and cold? Heat, cold, comfort, discomfort at the body level. Hunger and thirst at the prana level, vital air level. Likes and dislikes or joys and sorrows at the mental level. Praise and insult at the intellectual level. So are we disturbed by these? If we are disturbed, then do work towards it. When? Not one day, right now. Right now. Oh, I am not understanding. Immediately your conclusion should be, there is nothing to understand. Why? Because self is self-knowing. Mind can never understand enough to come to know the self. You have to have that type of self-talk. Oh, there is confusion. Oh, confusion is only of the intellect. So, and confusion is possible only when duality is appreciated. So what are the opposing thoughts, ideas that I am appreciating because of which this confusion is there? What is their confusion that I am? There is no question that I am not. Then where is the confusion? How I am not, where I am not, how am I, where am I? When we delve into these questions, then there will be something or the other will come into your mind. But is all that diatribe required in order to be the self? No. Does all this logic required in order to know this? No. And follows her husband, so his intellect, discarding the notion of dualism, becomes absorbed in the meditation of the self. Now this is very idealistic, that the wife leaves the parents and in-laws and only follows the husband wherever the husband goes. Nowadays you go your way, I go mine. It's changing. You can see all over the world. But traditionally, that is how it used to be. Even in the Western society, even in Indian society, even now it is being followed in a lot of places, but it's getting adulterated. Similarly, when the intellect gives up its duragraha, gives up its insistence to associate, to think about, to ideate the duality. It can do that by way of pranayam, by watching the breath. You can make the mind zero. As the breath becomes slow and shallow, the thoughts in the mind will also become less. Or you can do japa, vaikhari madhyama pashyanti para, and you can reduce the thoughts in the mind. As long as they are done with bhava, with feeling, that is that's the only word for it. But bhav means much more, with understanding, with meaning, with emotion, all that, with faith, that also is there. So when the mind becomes zero, the I has got nothing to associate with it, itself with. When you have got, so you are in a dark room, you come from outside, which the street is fully lit, or your porch is fully lit. You open the door, you enter the house, all the curtains are drawn close. There's not even one speck of light coming inside, and suddenly it's pitch dark. Nothing to see, nothing to associate with. Your mind is rushing. I think the wall is here, I think the furniture is there. How many steps did I walk already? Then I think 5 steps the sofa will come. I think after 10 steps the partition door will come. And we're thinking, but we can't see anything. If you take a pause at that time, where there is nothing to associate with for your mind, automatically your attention goes back to yourself, that I am. I am. Many people become afraid of that. You see? Because they see a bigger ghost. We become available. So, is there any object? No. So the mind falls back into its source. Mind was where the variety was. Now there is no variety. It has, what is the cause of the mind? Intellect. Without subject, object cannot be there. So what has happened to the object? It has fallen back into the subject. You can put it this way. He has eliminated, and this is called meditation. So every meditation, until and unless this scenario has not come about, till then meditation will not begin in our. If we are thinking about our grandchildren, we are thinking about our friends, we are thinking about the war, we are thinking about where the share market is going, we are thinking about how we are getting old, about our disease, and then with all those thoughts we go on the seat of meditation. What will we be meditating upon? We'll be meditating upon all those things. We'll not be meditating upon the self. So we have to start. Never take it for granted that I did it last time, so I think I have reached. No, every sitting, every day, every sitting is a fresh one, and you must start. Initial stages, initial wire, every time. Systematically delete the world, delete the body. Withdraw from the body, withdraw from the senses, withdraw from the breath, withdraw from the mind, dive into meditation. This is the process. For that, when you have come to the seat of meditation in the mornings, you come, withdraw. You have already decided that I don't want to be involved in the world, so you are here. Then how do you withdraw from the body? You relax the body from head to toe. After relaxing the body, you are watching that the body is relaxing, that the body is still, that the body is unmoving. Who is knowing? I am. Be the I. You have withdrawn from. When you focus on that I with reference to body, it will take few days, few weeks, and it will fall. You will fall into you'll get the knack, and you fall back into the I. But this I was with reference to the body, and now you have realized you are not the body. But now next stage is breath. So you go to the breath, you deep breathe few times. After breathing, oxygenating yourself, then you keep watching the breath. As you keep watching the breath without interfering with it, without regulating it, without directing it, without stopping or starting it, let it create its own rhythm. And if you are not interfering with it, if you don't take charge of it, of the breath will become slow and shallow. At that time, the teacher will instruct you, or you remind yourself, who is watching the breath? I am. Who am I? Time again. You're unaffected by the breath thereafter. Now come to the mind. Do the japa. Take the mantra. The mind is already quietened down because the breath has quietened down. But in that quietened mind, you introduce the mantra Om. Chant Om, who is knowing? And after some time, after a few weeks of practice, the Om will automatically go on in the mind. It all is directly proportional to your your intention, your faith, your eagerness, your bhava. So when that automatically starts, who is knowing that the mind is chanting? I am. Who am I? Again, you come back to the objectivity at the worldly level, at the sensory level, at the body level, at the breath level, at the mind level is withdrawn. The attention is withdrawn. And when attention is on something and when you withdraw, if there you have to withdraw and put it on something else. If you don't put it on something else, if it is in the grey area, then it will go back with a vengeance to what it left. So here whom we are going back to? We are going back to the I. And when our focus is I, whether with reference to the world, to the body, to the senses, to the breath, to the mind, when the attention is towards the self, then and then alone meditation is happening. If we are sitting on the seat of meditation and thinking, oh, the world is space, air, fire, water, body is space, air, fire, water, it is some meditation. You can say you are contemplating on something, but it is not meditation which is going to lead you to liberation. To come to liberation, we must be contemplating on the self. That is the true nature of the self. He has, where are we? He has eliminated the 5 sense objects which he had prized so long in the life of acquiring the desired knowledge, in the same way as the withdrawal of the rays by the sun at sunset destroys the mirage. See? What is mirage? What is mirage? That which exists in its own absence. When does it appear? Only under certain conditions. What is the condition? That the rays of the sun must hit the earth at a particular angle, perpendicular, I think. Only then the mirage is created. Under certain conditions. What has appeared? That which is not there. As the sun sets, what happens to the mirage? It vanishes because it was not there in the first place. So there is no loss, there is no gain. You cannot drink the waters, you cannot swim, you cannot irrigate. Exactly the same way. What is this world? Including this body, breath, mind, intellect, waker, dreamer, sleeper, past, present, future, individuality and totality. What is it? It is the mirage. Under certain conditions, it is appearing. But when we become available to the self, the mirage disappears. As the I gets absorbed into its own source, when the intellect gets absorbed into its own source in meditation, the mirage of the world, it starts losing its impact on us. It has hooked us on. Because we gave it value, because we gave it importance. But when we are giving importance to the essential nature, the essential self, then the world which was hanging on to us because we are giving it importance, now we are not giving importance, so it is waiting. Hey, catch me, take me with you, but we are not available because we are available to the self. And I just gave you the exercise. Relax the body. Who is knowing the body is relaxed? I. Come back to the I. Focus should be on the I, not on the body. Relax the breath. Focus should be on the observer of the breath. I, not on the breath. In this manner, these are just one. There are many techniques. There are many techniques. But all the crunch is this: that you must come back to the I, and I thought, how can I think of I? How can I think of I? When I cannot even think of sleep, so it goes to which is nothing, it goes into ignorance. So how can this physical eye see itself? It is not possible. Similarly, how can the mind, let's go back, how can the mind come to know the mind? It is not possible. So also the eye cannot come to know itself. But in that process of self-contemplation, what happens is the thought aspect of the eye drops away. What the eye represented, the conscious principle, that remains, because that is always. But the thought aspect which comes and goes, that drops away. Continuing, where are we? 1016. Nenata adhamachiya anna khadaliya kize vamana taisi vo kavili savasana इंद्रिये विषयी मग प्रत्यगा वृत्ती चोखटे लाविली गंगेचे नीतटे ऐसी प्रायश्चित्ते धुवटे केली येणे पाठी सात्विके धीरे तेणे शोधारली तिये करणे मग मनेसी योग धारणे मेळविली तेवीची प्राचीने इष्टानिष्टे भोगेसी येऊनी भेटे तेथ देखिलिया ही वोखटे द्वेषु न करी ना गोमटेची विपाये ते आणूनी पुढा सूये तया लागी न होये साभिलाषू या परी इष्टानिष्टी रागद्वेष क्रीटी त्यजूनी गिरिकपाटी निकुंजी वसे. He says, what does he say? He says, just as one who has taken food unknowingly in the house of a low caste person is forced to vomit it, so he has banished sensuous desires from the senses. In other words, just as I am a vegetarian, if by mistake I go to someone's house and I have this, unknowingly they give me meat, because I am not a meat eater, immediately it will just gurgitate itself out. It will not go in. And if by mistake, I know one person, they went to eat and someone ordered meatballs. They thought it was kofta. They ate. And afterwards, the person who had invited, he said, that was very tasty. What was it? It was meatball. The moment she heard it was a meatball, everything that went in came out on the table. All food was spoiled. Instantaneous. Why? It is not worthy of putting into this body. Alert. Mind does not accept it. Like that, the senses are not interested in associating with the objects of the world. And you will see many Mahatmas, even when we go to Varanasi, Vrindavan and other places, they only look down. They don't look at people, world. They only look at the ground, look at their feet, and they keep walking. When they are talking, many lecturers are there. When they are talking, they either keep their eyes closed or they are just looking down. They are not looking at anyone or anything. See? These are all techniques by which we can introduce a non-attachment of the senses to the objects, stimuli. A very gross way is speak no evil, see no evil, so put blinkers on your eyes, put earbuds in your ear, put a mouth guard. But that is a very gross way of, that's not going to work for long. So just as one who has taken unknowingly in the food in the house of a low caste person is forced to omit it, so he has banished sensuous desires from the senses. So whenever such desires appear, where is desire? Can desire be in the senses? No, desire is in the mind. But see, remember two ways we get caught up. Either the desire appears in the mind and it prompts the senses to seek that particular object, or when the senses come into association with an object, the desire erupts. Both ways. So you are going around the road and driving nicely and you are looking for a parking, and suddenly from the pizza shop the fragrance of pizza comes. You are not desirous of pizza, but the fragrance came and immediately the desire for pizza. Yeah, long time I have not eaten pizza. Let's have a pizza. And this is one way. The other way is this way was where the stimuli, the senses came in contact with the stimuli and the desire erupted. The other is desire erupted inside your bosom, inside your mind, and then it prompts the senses to go look for it. I have not eaten a samosa for a long time. Let's go to Gopika Chatka. See. Then after withdrawing the senses from the sense objects, he brings them to the bank of the Ganga in the form of the mind and washes them clean through atonement. Atonement, if you read the spelling atonement, if you break it up, it becomes at one ment. When the mind is seeking that one self, that is at one ment. If you think atone for my sins means, oh, I have to, do this to atone for my sins, for my regrets. No, we are not talking about that atonement. So first, withdraw the senses from the world of stimuli. Then, in technical language, in yogic language, it is called Dhamma. Dhamma is control of senses. Then comes Shama. Shama is control of mind. And what is the control of mind? Then after withdrawing the senses from the sense object, he brings them to the bank of the Ganga in the form of the mind and washes them clean through atonement. And how do you bring the senses to the mind? So there is the five senses. They are functioning in the outer world, seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, and these five senses are functioning in the inner world also. Don't you see, hear, touch, feel, taste in the dream also? Don't you see, hear, touch, feel, taste in imagination? You do, isn't it? So how do you seek at-one-ment or atonement? How do you do? How do you purify the senses further? By giving them an object worthy to be pursued. What is that? It can be the name of the Lord. But if you are more not auditory but more visual, then you give the Lord's form to the sense of sight. Then you feel the Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam, then the fragrance that is coming from the body of the Lord, that you feel. All this is possible, and all these are valid techniques because the mind has not given up the world fully. It needs, once the senses have given up the world, they need something else to associate with. If not, they will go back with even greater force. So we are not here to forcefully take it out. Initially you may do it, but after doing it, give them a worthy goal to pursue. So for that worthy goal is the Lord's form, the goddess's form, and remember, the rule is simple: whatever you associate with, you start desiring it. So before you were associating, the senses were associating with the world. So they're desiring to associate it with it again and again. And now you are given the senses, an image of the Lord, the story of the Lord, and continuous association with that image. Again, it is not a mechanical association, it is with devotion, it is with bhakti, with sincerity, with eagerness to be one, to be purified. So as you have that, just like you want to be one with pizza, what feeling? Same feeling you have it for Lord. I want to become one with Lord. The senses become purified because they have got something holy, something grand, something more encompassing, something more fulfilling as a goal in front of them. Because till today the world has not been able to satisfy you. We are talking here about purification. World has not, the more you associate with the world, more thoughts are there in the world, in your mind. More the thoughts, more broken up your mind is, more variety in the mind is, more manyness in your mind is. But when we withdraw the mind, when we withdraw the senses from the stimuli and bring it, as he says, to the Ganga of the mind, and in that mind we have the image. You are seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting whom? The Lord. Not this big, whole, huge world. One. So from manyness, you have come to one. And what is your idea of the one God? I'm just saying, I'm taking the example God. I don't know what he says afterwards, but I'm taking it. This is a penultimate step. So what is our idea of God? He is the all-encompassing principle, isn't it? So either you can take it to be the God principle, or you can come to contemplate on the self. Now let's see what he says here. Ganga in the form of the mind and washes them clean through atonement. Then after purifying the senses with sattvic fortitude, he keeps them engaged in the practice of yoga. Okay, so here yoga can be Ashtanga yoga, it can be Kriya yoga, it can be Kundalini yoga, or it can be Japa yoga, chanting the name of the Lord. But some practice, withdraw, engage the mind in some form of practice of concentration, of focus, and all these exercises bring about the focus. It is very important to give an alternative to the senses and the mind. If you don't give alternative to the senses and the mind, then you get big confusion. Because for lifetimes, the senses and the mind have been associated with the world. So that is the norm for them. Now you are, by discrimination, by force, by sheer willpower, you are disassociating from the world, but you need to give an alternative. You need to give them an option. And for what purpose? The purpose is from manyness to one. And when you move from manyness to one, that is called purification. When you move from many waves to one ocean, it is called purification. Why? Because in the one ocean, the reflection of the moon is clear. In the many waves, moon is always there, but you can't see it. Understand? So when many thoughts are there, you are unable to catch the self. But when the mind is calm, then there is just a possibility, an opportunity, a revelation that you will catch yourself. Because you are always yourself, you have never become separate from yourself, but you are being continuously hijacked by the manyness of the world. And that hijacking we are trying to curb, we are trying to cut the cord there. Understand the principle. Every meditation, this must be the prerequisite in order to go into meditation. If naturally you are getting pulled in, great, then don't do it. But you assess yourself. Then after purifying the senses and with sattvic fortitude, fortitude is what? Fortitude is dhruti, forbearance. Forbearance not with sheer willpower. No, do whatever you are doing. Go through the pains, go through, the desire is still coming, the senses are sometimes wanting to go and associate, but you are not. Do it joyfully. Don't do it out of frustration. Don't withdraw out of frustration. Don't withdraw out of willpower. Don't withdraw out of depression. And this world is useless. Nobody for anyone. No, do it joyfully. When withdrawal is joyful, then it is healthy. So here when it says, then after purifying the senses with sattvic fortitude and best way, sattvic again, sattvic means you are bringing the senses to a sattvic image in your mind, which is that of God and or that of name of the Lord, and that will automatically purify the senses. How can the name purify all the senses? Because the name is chanted. Chanting is word. It's a word. Word is the quality of space. From the space, all other air, fire, water, earth have come. So when you are dedicatedly chanting the name of the Lord, all the other four elements already automatically come under control. You understand? If that is not happening, when we say take the image of the Lord, that is the expression of the fire element. Because fire has form, so you want a form, okay. Or you want sound, take the sound. Then after purifying the senses with sattvic fortitude, he keeps them engaged in the practice of yoga. When he is required to experience the fruit of his past deeds, good or bad, he does not grieve over his sufferings or long for enjoyments. He is dedicated to his higher self. He is dedicated to the Lord. He is dedicated to his practices and eagerly. And while he is doing that, whole day you cannot be doing the practices, yogic practices or chanting of the name is going on. Suppose chanting of the name is going on. You are spending some dedicated time in your room, but when you come out of the room, the world is still there. Hey, you have to go and buy milk. Hey, you have to buy vegetable. Oh, you have to do gardening. Oh, you have to fill the petrol in the car. Now, are we going to react to all this, or are we going to take it in the stride? If we get frustrated by it, it will disturb our mind. Important thing is, whatever hard work, whatever integration has come about by our practices, that has to be maintained even when we are out there in the world. It must not get diluted. And therefore, he says here, he keeps them engaged in the practice of yoga when he is required to experience the fruit of his past deeds. And when we are living, remember two things. Whatever comes in our life is destiny. What is destiny? Whatever karmas you have done, the result is coming and it is coming. What is the karma that we have committed, that we are right now? You have to suffer me. So that is your prarabdha, that is your destiny right now. How you face it? Do you listen to this particular moment joyfully, with biasness, with judgment, with boredom, with same thing over and over again? He's got nothing to do. What is your attitude? For no reason you are walking and you hit something and your toe gets hurt and you scream few obscenities, or you take it coolly. For no reason, like this morning I was making tea, and while making the tea, well, I was not, mom was making the tea, and while making the tea, she put the milk, and it's not expired, still 2 more days, but it curdled. 10 minutes of standing there for her, it's a long time, she's old, but now what to do? Do you complain? Do you curse? Do you blame other people? That someone must have kept the milk outside, that's why it has become like this, or the fridge is not working, why this is a why? Blame the whole world, but do what is required. What is the best thing? She did not do all this. What she did? She just took another pot, made the tea, and took the fresh bottle of milk. Cool. Remain cool. So whatever good deeds are coming, if good results are coming in your life, don't get excited. If bad things are happening in your life, don't get depressed and dejected, or dejected and depressed. He does not grieve over his sufferings or long for enjoyments. He does not grieve. See, in the end, realization is 2 things. Dukkha nivritti, sukha prapti. At the relative level, these 2 things must happen. Dukkha nivritti, removal of all sorrow, of all grief. And what else must happen? Complete fulfillment, contentment. Sukha prapti, sukha, happiness. Prapti, attainment of happiness. You cannot have even 0.0001% of misery. If it is there, you are still far away from fulfillment. So both removal of grief and misery and attainment of fulfillment of happiness, attainment of happiness. This is at relative level. Here we are talking about step-by-step liberation, step-by-step process, and in that process we have withdrawn the senses from the world, we have engaged the senses into something more holy, more divine, something worthy to associate with, where in the mind, as a result, what has happened? From the manyness, your senses have come to one. While you are doing this, while you are living your life in this strict discipline, or a joyful strict discipline, life is still living. There will be pains, there will be gains, there will be sorrow, there will be you might get a lottery, or someone does something for you, or someone from a long time who has not come to see, you have seen, they come into your life. Don't get excited, don't get depressed. Someone near and dear passes away. It can happen. Just the other day someone called me, Swamiji, 19-year-old boy passed away in Glen Waverley. See? Now, someone is calling me, Swamiji, from India. Swamiji, my daughter is here and we have sent her a boy proposal and she's refused. First, second, third also she's refused. Can you have a chat with him, chat with her? Now what can I do? I can chat. I can chat. But what can I do? If she gets married, does it change my life? No. If she doesn't get married, does it change my life? No. If someone has said it, immediately I called her, hey, come on, let's go and meet, let's go for coffee. She said yes. But one day before, she got COVID, got cancelled. She says, Swamiji, I'm down, I don't want to, infect you. I said, no, don't even come close. We can chat next week. See? So life is continuously unfolding. And in that unfoldment, what are we going to get is not always conducive. Sometimes it is conducive, sometimes it is not conducive. When it is conducive, don't get excited, don't get too joyful, enjoy. But don't over-enjoy, don't get excited. It is but natural. The other day, yesterday only, one lady, her husband was a general manager in some big hotel chain in India, and met her in Bangalore, and not Bangalore, in Sri Sailam, Swamiji's camp. And we became close, half the night we were having satsang and the whole Zing Bang gang. And she sent last year or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, her husband passed away. She went to Kailash, she came back, within 1 week her husband passed away. And the first person she called when her husband passed away she called me. Because she knows Swamiji, she's a disciple of Swamiji. So she talked to me as a Swamiji aise ho gaya. And she couldn't speak. Then I gave it to Swamiji. Then Swamiji said something. Then when I went to India in 2019, I met her and all that. But yesterday she sent me some photographs from Himachal Pradesh. She has gone there with her son and she is enjoying. And why? Because she did not take it too serious. Grief is there. It is but natural when some near and dear passes away. But to lose the plot of life on account of that one person is foolishness. Because our goal is not that person, our goal is the infinite. So what we are trying to tell you here is, when we are we have withdrawn our senses from the world, we have engaged the senses into some higher worthy idea called the image of God or the name of Lord or pranayam or whatever. While we are doing those practices diligently, regularly, life has to be lived. You will be eating. Sometimes you will get food according to your taste. Sometimes you will not, because as you do your sadhana, your taste buds will change, your interest will change, the vairagya will be there. At that time, let your speech not become critical. Let it remain soft and pleasing. Let your all these things happen, and you have to go through it. And as long as you keep correcting yourself over and over and over again, and remember these verses at that time, that I must not, he does not grieve over his sufferings or long for enjoyments. Because if you desire for something, then that will become more important in your mind than the sadhana. And in this way, in the 121st, till here it was this. Thus he does not feel joy or grief at good or bad happenings and resorts to a cave or recess in a mountain. Where is the mountain? The mountain is in Unit 2, 11 Wolseley Avenue, second floor. Outside the door, cave, in the Himalayas. Hmm? Why Himalaya? All walls are white, no hangings. So where is this cave? This cave is, yes, here they are saying in the Himalayas. The best cave is the cave of your mind. The best cave is the cave of not even the mind, the cave of intellect. Remain there, remain meditative, remain in that poise of self contemplation in and through all your activities of life. Moving on, we can chant together. Vivikta sevi lagvashi yatava kaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samupashritaha. Dwelling in solitude, eating sparingly, subdued in speech, body and mind, ever intent on the practice of meditation and resorting to dispassion. So, having controlled your senses, having turned the senses inward towards the mind on some higher goal, living in the outer life, not reacting too much. Like today when I was coming out from my house, the girl was sitting and eating. I said, okay, bye, and I just tapped her on the shoulder like that. Just it's a sign of endearment or something. And she said, ouch. Hey, ouch. Why I just touched her softly. I said, are you hurting? Did I? No, I was teasing you. I said, okay. So don't be a touch me not. Many people are touch me not people. You can't speak to them, you can't touch them, you can't joke with them. So here he says that so because what is happening to you will be misunderstood by the common person. Remember this. You are withdrawing. You are not being normal according to them. When you are not being normal according to them, then what do? It's better you stop. With desire, don't go and get involved in anything. Then what is that called? With desire, not remain in solitude. Remain with yourself. Either a physical solitude or a mental solitude. To support that solitude now, important point. To support that solitude, eat sparingly, because the more you eat, the more thoughts will appear in your mind. If less you eat, less thoughts. No eating, no thoughts. How do you know? Try. 4 days you don't eat, just drink water. See, you will forget your husband's and wife's names also. Children's name also you will forget. It's not. Try. Maybe for someone it is 3 days, someone it is 4, someone it is 5. But you will lose your mind. Meaning, you will lose your memory. Everything that is coming out is out of memory only, isn't it? You will lose that. Because the thoughts in the mind are because of the nourishment of the food. Sattvic food, sattvic thoughts. Rajasic food, rajasic thoughts. Tamasic food, tamasic thoughts. We saw that before, isn't it? In this chapter itself. Or in some. So no food, no thought. You eat, after 2-3 hours, after some time, immediately you will be able to remember everything. So suppose you know Shanno Mitra Sham Varuna, okay? You stop eating for 4-5 days, then I say, come, start Shanno Mitra. You will not remember anything. But then you eat, after half an hour, once the nourishment has gone in, immediately you will be able to chant. So how do you help yourself to remain in solitude? Eat less. We live to eat. Man normally lives to eat. We have to eat to live. And how much is required to eat to live? Once upon a time, I used to eat 4-5 times. Snack, breakfast in the morning, coffee in the morning, then breakfast, then some snack, then lunch, then snack, then dinner, then before going to sleep, again little bit something in the... Then last 2.5 years, only 2 meals a day. Now slowly I'm introducing 1 meal a day. See? So eat sparingly. Eat only when you are hungry, and when you are hungry, eat so much, only so much, that hunger is not completely satiated. 1/3 of the hunger still should be maintained. Nourishment has gone in, overindulgence has not happened, and you're moving away from the table still hungry. These are all yogis know it, practitioners know it. Here Bhagavad Gita is telling you. So dwelling in solitude, eating sparingly, subdued in speech. When pangs of hunger are there, when for a long time you are in solitude, locked up in the room, or self-isolation. We saw people, one girl was 7 days self-isolated. She was going crazy. I'm tired, I have to get out. This is crazy, this is that. See? We imagine the craziness. But because of our previous attitude of over-involvement in life, blah, 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 for everything we are talking, arguing, chanting, speaking, unnecessarily listening to TV, talk, always on the phone, always on the SMS, always on the Facebook. Now, everything is... Solitude means not stay in your room, in your cave, and your Netflix movies is going on. That is not solitude. Solitude is free from all social engagements. You are only with yourself. But when you are not enjoying that self-withdrawal with yourself, if you have done it under compulsion, if you have done it under force, if you have done it unintelligent withdrawal, then whenever that door opens and you get to interact with the world, it will be like a volcano. It will be like a tsunami. Be careful. And therefore, what Bhagavan Krishna is telling here and Gyaneshwari Maharaj is telling, that the withdrawal should be joyful. The withdrawal should be with understanding. It should not be with force. And therefore, subdued in speech. I told you this example many times. When I was in Badrinath for 1 month, I was there doing sadhana. That time one Kotwal was there, one sannyasi. He had taken a vow. For 17 years he did not speak. 17 years he did not speak. And after a few years again I met him in Varanasi. He is like a machine gun. You can't make him stop speaking. As if he is taking the revenge of those 17 years. Because in those 17 years when he did not speak, he did not meditate. He may have done meditation, but he was taking the position of Kotwal. You have to invite, when we want to give bhandara, give food to the sadhus, someone has to go and invite all of them. So he used to go and invite because he wanted to be the boss, because he gets the double the dakshina, donation. So he used to go. That means still I want some power, I want some control, I want to be in the limelight. All that was still there. It was a wonderful opportunity, 17 years of no speaking. Physical, with mouth he is not speaking, but mentally he's lost the plot. So let it not be so. And when sometimes in solitude, when you come out and you speak, sometimes the words can be very, क्या बोलते हैं, चुभने वाले को क्या बोलते हैं, can be very pokey, pokey, hokey pokey ice cream, can be pokey, can be hurtful. You don't mean that way, but it's coming out that way because of the extreme vairagya, extreme dispassion. Subdued in speech, body and mind. At that time, when you are in solitude, don't overindulge your mind in unwanted activity, imaginations. At the body level, don't overdo too much exercise. Focus is meditation. Focus is not only yoga or pranayama. From body exercises so that your body becomes loose. Pranayam so that the mind becomes calm. Japa so that mind becomes calmer. How long all this should take? For me, it takes maybe 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. But once upon a time, it used to take half an hour, 45 minutes. When I started, over the years, it is going down and down and down and down and down. So practice. Where are we? Ever intent on the practice of meditation and resorting to dispassion. Ever intent on meditation. Every opportunity he gets, he is back in his cave in meditation or in japa and then into meditation. Every time japa doesn't work, sometimes you have to do pranayam, then into meditation. Every time pranayam doesn't work, sometimes do yoga and then into meditation. Whichever, you have to, you start becoming in tune with your body, breath, mind, intellect. Every time same thing works, it's not necessary. You have to be open. And resorting to dispassion. Dispassion is urge to engage. Urge to engage with the world. Urge to engage with, solutions start coming to your daily problems. That also you have to be dispassionate about. So in this manner, विविक्त सेवी लघ्वाशी यतवाक्काय मानसः ध्यान योग परो नित्यं वैराग्यं समुपाश्रितः गजबजा सांडिलिया वसवी वनस्थलिया अंगाचियाची मांदिया एकलेया शमदमादिकी खेळे न बोलणेची चावळे गुरुवाक्याचे मेळे नेणे लेळू आणि अंगा बळ यावे ना तरी क्षुधा जावे काजी भेची पुरवावे मनोरथ भोजन करिता विखी ययाति ते न लेखी आहारी मिती संतोषी मापन सूये अशनाचे निपावके हारपता प्राणुपोखे इतुकियाची भागु मोटके अशन करी. I went ahead, just 5 I have to read. He dwells in solitude in a forest, far from the maddening crowd, in company of his own body and organs. It is important when we are doing these exercises. We also went to the ashram to study, because at that point, at that juncture, when I was at home doing all these exercises, meditation, etc., the disturbance, small things start disturbing you. Expectation from your parents, from your siblings, certain duties that you have to do, you are doing it. But in doing that, if you work, going to earn a living. So when we are sitting and the urge is, aaj to ho jaye, 5-hour meditation. But you can't, because in 1.5 hours you have to get up and your mind says, hey, it's time to catch the train to go to city to work. And even if the urge is there, you can't sit. And slowly, these frustrations build up and then you start reacting. And therefore, because people will not understand what you are going through, and therefore it is told he dwells in solitude in a forest or in an ashram or in a quiet place, far from the maddening crowd, in company of his own body and organs. Yes, in ashram, you are not only with your body and your organs, but you are with other brahmacharis also. There is another game going on. But you have to. But there is no expectation from anyone. There is no attachment. There is no sense of duty in that sense, which we are caught up at home. Restraint of the senses and self-control become his recreation, and he observes silence. So what is our recreation? Watching the serials. What is our recreation? Giving lectures and listening lectures. What is his recreation? Any free spare moment, remain in silence. Or you are in your japa, moving around in the world as if the world is not there. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, no one to associate with. If someone calls, good. If you don't call, very good. If you get food, good. If someone doesn't give, very good. Now, if you start behaving like this, does a normal society accept such a person? Very difficult. But you have to enjoy what you are doing. You are not doing it to please anyone. You are not doing it to gain name and fame. You are not doing it to show off to anyone that I am a great sadhaka. You are doing it because your goal is the self. Your goal is the self, yes, at this moment, but your goal is purification of the mind. And it's a continuous game. How I can withdraw my senses from the object stimuli? How can I make my mind from many thoughts to zero thought? It's a continuous game. It's going on inside you. Nobody can catch, but you only know. He's not even conscious how his time passes in meditating over the instruction of his guru. So you must have seen sometimes satsang goes, we have done only one or two lines, sometimes it happens, and 1.5 hours is over. So same thing happens when you are doing japa, when you are chanting the name of the Lord or the mantra which your Guru Maharaj has given, or Om, and when you start when you are enjoying it, when your goal is to purify the mind, you are totally engaged with it consciously. How suddenly 1-2 hours go, you don't even realize. And same is with meditation. He is not even conscious of how his time passes in meditating over the instructions of his guru. He never gives any thought at the time of taking his food as to how he should maintain his strength, satisfy his hunger, or cater to the peculiar taste of his palate. No more concern. What is this called? He has got complete dispassion towards food. If food comes, whatever comes is good enough. Why? Only little bit is required to sustain energy. What is that? Food is required so that the mind is active, and only enough active so that it can chant the name and drop into meditation. That's all. So eat that much. Instead, what do? Ganapati Bappa Moria. Lambodar Vidam. Eat to live, don't live to eat. Understand what type of food you eat, what quality of food you eat. Doesn't mean it's from a 5-star hotel, so it is sattvic. No, it is not. Sattvic food is that food which is cooked only 1 hour before you eat. Sattvic food is that which has got not too many spices, not too many chilies. And how much you should eat? Only just to keep your mind alive. नहीं तो सांबार आ गया दबाओ 1 round 2 round 3 round then yogurt and rice then also in that sambar and khatam. Understand the connection between food and mind. That is important here. He never gives any thought at the time of taking his food as to how he should maintain his strength, satisfy his hunger, or cater to the peculiar taste of his palate. The contentment which he derives from a frugal meal is beyond measure. Few morsels of food and satisfaction is there. You know how you can bring satisfaction? You eat 1 spoon of food into your mouth, chew it 32 times. I guarantee, after 5 spoons, you will not feel hungry only. Half of your plate will be, you say, yeah, someone take it. I can't eat anymore. Chew 32 times. Masticate it in your mouth and then swallow it. Normally what we do, don't swallow. Chew. Even if it is rice, chew. Even if it is soup, chew 32 times. Let it mix with your saliva and everything. Very quickly you will feel satisfied. On that note of food, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Just sit quietly for a moment.